The wedding dress cost $37 from a thrift shop downtown, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever worn. Not because of the yellowed lace or the slightly too long hem that dragged against the courthouse steps, but because Jake's face lit up like Christmas morning when he saw me in it. My name is Zoe, and that was the day I chose love over money. The day I chose Jake Foster, grease under his fingernails, calloused hands and all, over the pristine world my parents had built around me like a cage. "You look perfect," Jake whispered, as we walked up those courthouse steps, his hand warm and steady in mine. I squeezed back. "We're really doing this." "Damn right we are." The ceremony lasted 12 minutes. Jake's best man was his buddy from the auto shop, still wearing his work uniform because he'd come straight from fixing someone's transmission. My maid of honor was Eleanor, my friend from the diner where I'd been waitressing to save money. She held my bouquet of grocery store daisies and cried happy tears. No one from my family came. I'd invited them anyway, hoping against hope that maybe this once they'd choose me over their image. They didn't. The first call came while Jake was kissing me on the courthouse steps, our marriage certificate still warm from the clerk's printer. "Zoe Marie Price, what have you done?" My mother's voice cut through the phone like broken glass. I stepped away from Jake, who was laughing with Eleanor about something, and pressed the phone closer to my ear. "I got married, Mom, to the man I love." That mechanic? Zoe, please tell me this is some kind of joke." "His name is Jake, and no, it's not a joke." The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, "Come home, right now, we need to talk." "I am home," I said, watching Jake spin Elena around while she shrieked with laughter. "Wherever Jake is, that's home." "Don't be ridiculous, you're throwing your life away for some blue-collar nobody who'll never—" I hung up. Jake appeared at my elbow. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," I lied, and kissed him again. But the calls kept coming. First Mom, then Dad, then both of them together on speakerphone while I sat in our tiny apartment above the auto shop, still in my thrift store dress. "Zoe, be reasonable," Dad said, his voice that cold, measured tone he used in board meetings. "This man cannot provide for you the way you deserve." "He provides love, Dad. Remember that?" "Love doesn't pay for college. Love doesn't buy houses or secure your future." "Maybe not, but it's enough for me," Mum's voice cracked through the speaker. "What about your education, your trust fund, your future? What about them? If you go through with this marriage, if you stay with him, you're cut off. Completely. No college fund, no trust fund, no family support, nothing." My hands shook as I gripped the phone. "You're disowning me for marrying someone you think is beneath us." "We're giving you a choice," Dad said. "Him or your family, your real family." Jake walked into the room then, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing that soft smile he saved just for me. He set my cup down and kissed the top of my head, completely unaware that my parents were trying to buy me back through the phone. "I choose Jake," I said without hesitation. "I choose love." The explosion was immediate. "You ungrateful little— After everything we've given you, don't come crawling back when—" I hung up and turned off the phone. Jake sat beside me on our second-hand couch. "Want to talk about it?" "They cut me off, completely." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Are you okay?" I looked around our tiny apartment with its mismatched furniture and the smell of motor oil that never quite went away. I looked at Jake, really looked at him, this man who worked 16-hour days to build something from nothing, who brought me coffee without being asked, who loved me enough to let me make this choice without pressure. "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm free." But as I said it, something hard and determined settled in my chest. Someday, I thought, watching Jake's relieved smile, someday they'll regret this. Someday they'll see exactly what they threw away. I had no idea how right I'd be. 10 years. That's how long it took to build something they couldn't ignore. "Zoe, table 6 is asking for you again," Elena called from behind the diner counter, her hair escaping from its ponytail after the lunch rush. I wiped my hands on my apron and grabbed the coffee pot. "What do they need?" "Nothing, they just like you." That was 2018, 3 years after the wedding. I was pulling double shifts at the diner while Jake worked on cars, both of us scraping together every penny to buy the auto shop from his retiring boss. Our daughter Lily was 2, spending her days with Mrs. Rodriguez next door, who charged us practically nothing because she said Lily reminded her of her own granddaughter. "You're going to wear yourself out," Jake said that night, finding me at the kitchen table with receipts spread everywhere, calculator in one hand, baby monitor in the other. "We're so close, Jake. Another 6 months of this and we can make the down payment." He rubbed my shoulders. "What if we waited, saved a little longer?" "No." I looked up at him. "We do this now, or someone else will buy it. This is our shot." He kissed the top of my head. "Okay, but promise me something." "What?" "When we make it, and we will make it, you remember this moment. Remember how hard we worked for it." I had no idea why that promise would matter so much later. By 2020, Foster & Price Auto was turning a real profit. Not huge money, but enough that I could quit the diner and focus on the business side full time. Jake handled the mechanical work, I handled everything else: books, customer service, marketing, hiring. "We need another bay," I told Jake one morning, showing him the appointment schedule. "We're booked solid for 3 weeks." "Where are we going to get the money for expansion?" I pointed to the savings account balance on my laptop screen. "Right there." His eyes widened. "Holy shit, Zoe, when did we—" "When you were busy being the best mechanic in town, and I was busy making sure everyone knew it." That's when the Facebook messages started. "Zoe, saw your business featured in the local paper. So proud of you. Kimberly." I stared at the message for a full minute before showing Jake. "Your sister?" "Yep." "What do you want to do?" I deleted it without responding, but they kept coming. Not from my parents, never from them, but from Kimberly. Updates about her life, her new startup, her apartment in the city. Always casual, always ending with some version of, "We should catch up soon." "She's fishing," Elena said when I told her about it. She was working for us now, managing operations while I focused on growth strategy. "Wants to see if you'll bite." "Why now, though?" Elena shrugged. "Maybe she misses you. Maybe she's curious. Or maybe," she paused, "maybe things aren't going as well as she wants you to think." I found out she was right when I saw the newspaper article. Local tech startup receives major investment from Price Family Foundation. There was Kimberly, grinning in a photo next to our parents. The article mentioned a significant 6-figure investment in her app development company. Mum and Dad looked exactly the same. Dad in his expensive suit, Mum with that practiced smile she wore to charity events. "They gave her everything they refused to give us," I said, sliding the newspaper across the counter to Jake. He read it, his jaw tightening. "You okay?" "I'm fine." But I wasn't fine, I was furious. While Jake and I had scraped and saved and worked ourselves to exhaustion, they'd just written Kimberly a check. While we'd eaten ramen for months to afford business insurance, they'd funded her dreams without question. "You know what?" I said, grabbing my laptop. "Let's expand faster." "Zoe, no, Jake, we're opening a 2nd location and a 3rd. I want our name on every auto shop in this county." He watched me pull up real estate listings. "This isn't about the business anymore, is it?" "Everything I do is about the business." "Bullshit." He closed my laptop gently. "This is about them." I looked at him, this man who'd stood by me through everything, who'd never once made me feel like I'd chosen wrong. Maybe it is. Is that so bad? Depends on what you're trying to prove. that they were wrong about us, about you, about what we could build together. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then, and what happens when you prove it? I didn't have an answer then, but I was about to find out. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning in March 2023, hand-delivered to our newest location. My name written in my mother's careful script on cream-coloured stationery. "Zoe, we need to talk. It's urgent." Mum and Dad. I held it for a long time before opening it, my hands shaking slightly. "Please come home. We're in trouble." They looked smaller than I remembered. Dad stood on my front porch in a suit that had seen better days, his shoulders hunched forward like he was carrying invisible weight. Mum clutched her purse with white knuckles, her usually perfect hair showing grey roots she'd never let anyone see before. "Hello, Zoe," Dad said. I didn't move from the doorway. "What do you want?" "May we come in, please?" Jake appeared behind me, Lily peeking around his legs. She was 8 now, all curious eyes and tangled hair from playing outside. "Who are they, Mum?" she whispered. "Old friends," I said, not taking my eyes off my parents. "Jake, can you take Lily to get ice cream?" He squeezed my shoulder. "You sure?" "I'm sure." After they left, I led my parents to the living room. They sat on the edge of the couch like they might need to run, taking in our house, the family photos, Lily's art projects on the refrigerator, Jake's work boots by the door. "You have a beautiful home," Mum said softly. "Thank you. And Lily she's lovely. She looks like you did at that age." I sat across from them in Jake's recliner, arms crossed. "You didn't come here to talk about my daughter." Dad cleared his throat. "No, we didn't." He looked at Mum, who nodded. "Zoe, we're in trouble, serious financial trouble." "How serious?" "We're going to lose the house," Mum said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The lake house, everything. We have maybe 6 weeks before foreclosure." I kept my face neutral. "What happened?" "Kimberly's company," Dad said. "We invested everything, the foundation, our retirement. We even took out loans against the house. And it failed completely. The app never launched properly. There were technical issues, legal problems with patents." He rubbed his forehead. "We lost it all." Mum leaned forward. "Zoe, we know we know things ended badly between us. But you're doing so well now, and we thought—" "You thought what?" "That maybe you could help us," Dad finished. "A loan, or maybe you could co-sign for refinancing, or—" I stood up. "Let me get this straight. You cut me off completely. Told me I was dead to you for marrying Jake. Didn't speak to me for 10 years, and now you want money." "We were wrong," Mum said quickly. "We see that now. You've built something amazing, and Jake seems like a good man." "Seems like?" Jake is a good man," Dad corrected. "We were wrong about him, about everything." I walked to the window, looking out at the yard where Jake had built Lily a swing set last summer. "Where's Kimberly in all this?" My parents exchanged a look. "She's struggling," Mum said carefully. "The business failure hit her hard. She's staying with friends in the city." "So she's not helping you?" "She can't," Dad said. "She's broke too." I turned back to them. "But I can." "You have 3 locations now," Mum said. "The newspaper said you're expanding again. You must be doing very well." "We are." "Then you could—" "I could what? Write you a cheque? Save the house where you told me I'd never be welcome again?" Mum's composure cracked. "Zoe, please, we're desperate. We have nowhere else to turn. You have Kimberly." "Kimberly made this mess," Dad snapped, then caught himself. "I'm sorry, we all made mistakes." I sat back down, studying their faces. Dad looked exhausted, older than his 65 years. Mum's hands shook slightly as she reached for a tissue. "The lake house," I said slowly. "The one with the dock where I used to fish with Grandpa. The one where you told me I was no longer your daughter." "Zoe? That house?" "Yes," Dad whispered. I nodded. How much do you owe? Hope flickered in Mum's eyes. 800,000, but if we could just get current on the payments, maybe restructure. 800,000. I let the number hang in the air. That's a lot of money. We know it's a huge ask, Dad said, but we're family, and family helps family. I smiled then, and something in my expression made Mum shrink back into the couch. Family, I repeated. You know what's funny? I used to think that too. I used to lie awake at night wondering if you missed me, if you regretted cutting me off, if maybe someday you'd realize you were wrong. We do realize, but you don't miss me. You miss my money. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. That's not true, Mum said weakly. Isn't it? You always were the mature one, Zoe, the responsible one, the one who could fix things. I leaned forward. Amazing how you remember that now. I need time to think about it, I said finally. Dad's shoulders sagged with relief. Of course, take all the time you need. How long do we have? Mum asked. 6 weeks, you said? 5 weeks and 3 days, Dad corrected. The foreclosure notice is final. I walked them to the door. I'll be in touch. After they left, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone until Jake and Lily came home with chocolate ice cream smeared on Lily's face. How did it go? Jake asked, lifting Lily onto the counter to clean her up. They want money, a lot of money. For what? To save their house. Kimberly's startup tanked and took their savings with it. Jake paused, washcloth in hand. And I told them I'd think about it. He finished cleaning Lily's face and sent her to play in the living room before turning back to me. What's really going on, Zoe? I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder I'd been building for months. Remember when you asked what happens when I prove them wrong? Yeah, I already proved it. 3 months ago. I turned the screen toward him. Bank statements, property records, legal documents. Jake's eyes widened. Holy shit, you bought their mortgage. Not just the mortgage, all their debt. The second mortgage, the business loans, the credit lines. I own everything. When? I started buying pieces of it last year through shell companies. Finished the acquisition in December. I closed the laptop. They don't know it yet, but they've been paying me rent on their own house for 3 months. Jake sat down heavily. Jesus, Zoe, why? Because I could. Because I wanted to see what would happen when they had nothing left. And now they're here, begging the daughter they disowned for help they don't know she's already controlling. Jake was quiet for a long moment. This is revenge. This is justice. Is it? Or is it just you becoming exactly what you hated about them? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Kimberly standing on my porch, designer purse clutched in her hands despite the worn look of her clothes. Shit, I muttered. Who is it? Jake asked. My sister. I opened the door. Kimberly looked like she'd been crying, her makeup smudged and her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Zoe? Kimberly? Can we talk? I stepped aside to let her in. Jake took one look at the situation and disappeared upstairs with Lily. Kimberly sat where our parents had been an hour earlier, but she looked more fragile, more broken. They told me they came to see you, she said. Did they? I told them not to. I told them you'd never help us after what we did. But here you are, she laughed bitterly. Here I am, the golden child coming to beg the black sheep for scraps. Is that what you're doing? Begging? I don't know what I'm doing, she looked around the room. This is nice, really nice. You did good, Zoe. Thanks. I'm sorry. For what? For not standing up for you. When you married Jake, when they cut you off, I should have said something. Why didn't you? She was quiet for a long moment. Because I was scared they'd cut me off too, and I liked being the favourite. I liked being the one they were proud of. And now? Now I'm the one who lost their retirement money on a stupid app that never worked right. Now I'm the failure. I studied her face. What do you want from me, Kimberly? I want you to help them. Why would I do that? Because they're our parents. Because despite everything, they love us. They love the idea of us when we're useful. Maybe, but they're still family. I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out an envelope with my company logo on it. You're right, they are family. Hope flickered in Kimberly's eyes as I handed her the envelope. She opened it and went white. What is this? An eviction notice. But this says you own the house. I do, have for months. Kimberly stared at the papers, her hands shaking. You bought their debt. All of it. Why? Because I wanted them to know what it felt like to lose everything, to have nowhere to turn, to be completely at someone else's mercy. Zoe, you can't. I can do whatever I want. It's my house now. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. This is cruel. Is it? Or is it just business? This isn't you. The Zoe I knew wouldn't. The Zoe you knew died 10 years ago when her family abandoned her for marrying a mechanic. Kimberly stood up, clutching the eviction notice. What do you want? Money? An apology? What will it take? I smiled. I want you to understand what powerless feels like, all of you. And then we'll see. Kimberly crumpled the eviction notice in her fist. You want to know what powerless feels like? I'll tell you. I'm listening. Powerless is watching your app crash on launch day because you hired cheap developers who cut corners. Powerless is sitting in meetings with investors who trusted you, watching them realize their money is gone. Powerless is Mom crying herself to sleep every night because she thinks it's her fault for believing in me. Sounds rough. You think this is funny? I think it's karma. Kimberly laughed, but there was no humour in it. Karma? You want to talk about karma, Zoe? Let me tell you what really happened with my startup. She sat back down, her whole body deflating. The app was working. For months it was actually working. We had users, we had revenue projections, we had everything. So what went wrong? I got greedy. The investors wanted faster growth, bigger numbers, so I pushed the developers to add features we weren't ready for. I ignored the warnings about server capacity. I rushed the marketing launch. And it all fell apart in one day. The servers crashed, user data got corrupted, and suddenly we had lawsuits instead of customers. I waited. But that's not the worst part, Kimberly continued. The worst part is that I knew it was going to fail. 2 weeks before launch, I knew, and I didn't tell Mom and Dad. Why not? Because I couldn't stand the thought of disappointing them, of not being the golden child anymore. So I let them invest their retirement money in something I knew was doomed. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. You want to punish someone for destroying our parents? Punish me. I'm the one who did it. You're right, I said. You are. So why are you punishing them? Because they made their choice. They chose you over me, remember? They chose to put all their eggs in your basket. They chose to believe you were worth investing in, while I wasn't worth a phone call. That doesn't make this right, doesn't it? The front door opened, and Jake walked in, stopping short when he saw us. Sorry, he said. Didn't know you were still talking. We're done, Kimberly said, standing up. Aren't we, Zoe? Not quite. I pulled out my phone and called Elena. Can you come over? I need a witness for something. 20 minutes later, Elena sat at my kitchen table with a notepad, looking between me and Kimberly like she was watching a tennis match. Explain to Elena what you just told me, I said to Kimberly. Why? Because I want someone else to hear it. Kimberly repeated her story about the startup, the failed launch, the lies to our parents. Eleanor took notes, her expression growing darker with each detail. So you knowingly let your parents invest in a failing company? Eleanor asked. Yes. And you never told them the risks? No. Elena looked at me. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Kimberly needs to tell them the truth. I can't, Kimberly said quickly. It would destroy them. More than losing their house. That's different. Oh, how? Because they can blame the market or bad luck or anything else. If they know I lied to them, she shook her head, it would break them. Maybe they deserve to know who really broke them. Elena cleared her throat. Zoe, can I talk to you privately? We stepped into the hallway. What are you doing? Elena whispered. Getting justice. This isn't justice. This is torture. They tortured me for 10 years, and look what it's turning you into. Elena grabbed my arm. I've watched you build something amazing. Don't tear yourself down for revenge. I'm not tearing anything down. I'm building something new. What? A world where actions have consequences, where people can't just throw away their children and expect to be saved by them later. Elena stared at me. You're not them, Zoe. Don't become them while trying to prove you're better. We walked back to the kitchen where Kimberly was staring out the window. I have a proposal, I said. What kind of proposal? You tell our parents the truth about the startup, all of it, and I'll consider helping them keep the house. And if I don't, then they get evicted in 4 weeks and never know why. Kimberly turned to face me. You're giving me an impossible choice. I'm giving you the same choice they gave me 10 years ago. Choose your family or choose yourself. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Jake appeared in the doorway. Zoe, there's someone here to see you. Who? Says his name is Dominic. Something about a business proposal. I smiled. Perfect timing. Send him in. Dominic walked into the kitchen in his expensive suit, briefcase in hand, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Zoe, good to see you again. He nodded to the others. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. Dominic, meet my sister Kimberly. Kimberly, this is Dominic Armstrong. He's a real estate investor. Kimberly's face went pale. What's he doing here? He's here to make an offer on a property I own, I said. A beautiful lake house that's about to become available. Dominic opened his briefcase and spread photos across my kitchen table. The lake house has incredible potential. Prime waterfront, established landscaping, perfect for a luxury retreat centre. Kimberly stared at the photos of her childhood home. You can't be serious. The location alone is worth $2 million, Dominic continued, but with renovations, we're looking at a $5 million property. What kind of renovations? I asked. Complete interior overhaul, spa facilities, guest suites, conference rooms. We'd need to gut most of the existing structure. No, Kimberly whispered. Dominic pulled out a contract. I'm prepared to offer $1.8 million cash, closing in 30 days. That's a generous offer, I said. It's our family home, Kimberly said, her voice breaking. Actually, it's my property now, I corrected, and it's just a house. Elena shifted uncomfortably. Zoe, but I have a counter-proposal, I said to Dominic. What if we made this a joint venture? I maintain majority ownership, you handled the development, and we split the profits. Interesting. What percentage split? 70-30, my favour. Deal. Dominic smiled. When can we start? There's one small complication. The current occupants need to be relocated. Not a problem. I have connections with several moving companies. Actually, I was thinking of something more personal. I turned to Kimberly. How would you like a job? What? The retreat centre will need staff, housekeeping, maintenance, guest services. I could arrange positions for you and our parents. Kimberly's face went white. You want us to work as servants in our own house? Form a house? And they wouldn't be servants. They'd be employees. Zoe, this is insane, Elena said. Is it? They need jobs. I need staff. It's practical. Dominic looked confused. These are family members. Estranged family members, I clarified. We had a falling out years ago. I see. He closed his briefcase. Perhaps I should let you work out the family dynamics first. No need. Kimberly, go get our parents. Bring them here. I won't be part of this. Then they get evicted tomorrow instead of next month. Kimberly stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her purse. You've become a monster. I've become successful. There's a difference. After she left, Elena pulled me aside again. This has gone too far. Has it? You're about to humiliate your parents in front of a stranger. They humiliated me in front of their entire social circle. And that makes this right? Before I could answer, Jake walked in from the garage, oil stains on his shirt. What's all the commotion? He asked. Zoe's about to offer her parents jobs as housekeepers, Elena said. Jake looked at me. Please tell me that's not true. It's a legitimate business opportunity. Bullshit. He sat down across from me. This isn't about business. This is about making them grovel. Maybe they should grovel. Maybe they should know what it feels like to need something from someone who has every reason to say no. And then what? You feel better? You sleep better at night? I sleep fine. Do you? Because you've been having nightmares for months. I stared at him. What nightmares? The ones where you wake up crying? The ones where you call out for your mum? The room went quiet. That's different, I said finally. Is it? A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I saw Kimberly walking up the path with our parents behind her. Dad looked confused. Mum looked terrified. They're here, Elena said. Dominic straightened his tie. Should I wait outside? No, stay. You're part of this now. I opened the door before they could knock. Mum, Dad, come in. They filed into the kitchen, taking in Dominic's expensive suit and the property photos still scattered on the table. Zoe, what's going on? Dad asked. I'm solving your problem. What problem? I picked up one of the photos, a shot of their house from the lake. Your housing situation. Mum's hand flew to her throat. That's our house. My house, I corrected, and Mr. Armstrong here is going to help me turn it into something profitable. Dad looked between me and Dominic. I don't understand. It's simple. I own your mortgage, your debt, everything, and I've decided to sell to Mr. Armstrong for development. You can't, Mum whispered. Here I can do whatever I want, but I'm feeling generous today. I smiled. I'm offering you jobs. Jobs? Housekeeping, groundskeeping, guest services. You'd live on site during the renovation, room and board included. The silence stretched until Dad finally spoke. You want us to be servants in our own home. I want you to earn your keep for once. Mum started crying. Dad put his arm around her, his face hard. You didn't win, he said quietly. You just proved you're exactly like us. No, I said. I proved I'm better than you. I'm offering you a choice instead of just throwing you away. Mum collapsed into a chair, her sobs filling the kitchen. Dad stood behind her, his hands shaking as he gripped her shoulders. This is what you wanted? He asked me. To see us broken? I wanted you to understand. Understand what? What it felt like when you threw me away. Dominic cleared his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps I should... Stay, I said firmly. This concerns you too. Kimberly stepped forward. Zoe, please, look at them. Look what you're doing. I'm looking. I see two people who are finally experiencing consequences. You see two broken old people who made mistakes, Jake said quietly from the doorway. I turned on him. Don't what? Tell you the truth? This isn't justice, Zoe. This is cruelty. They were cruel first, and that makes it right. Mum looked up through her tears. We were wrong. We were so wrong about everything. About Jake, about you, about what mattered. Now you say that when you need something. No. She wiped her face with shaking hands. I've known it for years. Every Christmas, every birthday, every milestone we missed. I knew we were wrong. Then why didn't you call? Because I was proud. Because I was stubborn. Because I thought... She broke down again. Because I thought you'd never forgive us. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. We lost our daughter for 10 years because we couldn't admit we were wrong. And now we're going to lose everything else because we were too late. The kitchen fell silent except for Mum's quiet crying. Elena stood up. I need some air. She looked at me as she passed. This isn't who you are, Zoe. Remember who you are. After she left, Dominic gathered his papers. I think I should go. This is clearly a family matter. The offer stands, I called after him. I'll be in touch, he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. When the door closed, it was just us. The family that had been broken for a decade, finally in the same room. What do you want from us? Kimberly asked. Really, what will it take? I looked around the kitchen, at my parents crying, at Jake's disappointed face, at the photos of their house scattered on the table like pieces of a broken dream. I want you to say it, I said finally. Say what? That you were wrong, that Jake is a good man, that I made the right choice. We already said, say that you're proud of me, say that you wish you'd been there, say that you missed me. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Dad straightened up slowly. We were wrong about everything. Jake is a better man than I am. He saw what you were worth when we were too blind to see it. And we're proud of you, so proud it hurts. You built something amazing and we missed all of it because we were fools. Mum nodded through her tears. I missed you every single day for 10 years. Then why? Because I didn't know how to fix it, she whispered. I didn't know how to take back 10 years of being wrong. Jake moved to stand beside me. Zoe. What? You got what you wanted. They said it. They admitted everything. And now what? You destroy them anyway. I looked at the eviction notice still crumpled in Kimberly's hand, at the property photos on the table, at my parents' broken faces. I don't know. Yes, you do. Jake's voice was gentle but firm. You know exactly what kind of person you want to be. They hurt me, and now you're hurting them back. How does it feel? I expected to feel satisfied, vindicated, powerful. Instead, I felt hollow. It feels... I stopped. Empty? I nodded. Jake pulled out a chair and sat beside me. You know what I remember about our wedding day? What? Not your parents' phone calls, not the threats or the ultimatums. I remember you in that thrift store dress, choosing love over everything else. That's the woman I married. That's who you really are. But they were wrong, and they know it now. The question is, what are you going to do with that? I looked at my parents, really looked at them. Dad had aged 10 years in the past hour. Mum looked fragile, breakable. I need time to think, I said. How much time? Dad asked. I don't know. Kimberly helped Mum to her feet. Come on, let's go home. We don't have a home, Mum said quietly. You have until the end of the month, I said. I won't throw you out tomorrow. And then? I met her eyes. Then we'll see what kind of person I really am. After they left, Jake and I sat in the quiet kitchen. You okay? He asked. No, but I will be. What are you going to do? I picked up one of the property photos, the house where I'd learned to swim, where I'd had my first heartbreak, where I'd been told I was no longer welcome. I'm going to figure out the difference between justice and revenge. And if there isn't one, then I'm going to create one. The call came at 6 a.m, 3 weeks later. Zoe, Mum's voice was barely a whisper. Your father's in the hospital. I sat up in bed, Jake stirring beside me. What happened? Heart attack? They think it was the stress. She broke down crying. I don't know what to do. I don't have insurance anymore, and the bills—" "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Jake was already getting dressed. "I'm coming with you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." We found Mum in the cardiac wing waiting room, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Kimberly sat beside her, both of them looking like they'd aged years in weeks. "How is he?" I asked. "Stable, but they want to do surgery, a bypass." Mum looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "The surgeon says it'll cost $40,000 minimum." "What about Medicare?" "Covers some of it, not enough." I sat down across from them. "Where will you get the money?" "We won't," Kimberly said quietly. "We don't have it." "So what happens?" "They'll do emergency care, but—" Mum shrugged helplessly. "Without the surgery, he has maybe 6 months." The waiting room fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and distant hospital sounds. "I'll pay for it," I said. Mum's head snapped up. "What?" "The surgery. I'll cover it." "Zoe, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to." Kimberly stared at me. "Why?" "Because he's my father. Because despite everything, I don't want him to die." "But the house—" "Is still mine. This doesn't change that." A doctor appeared in scrubs, looking tired. "Family of Everett Price." We all stood. "The surgery went well. He's in recovery now. You can see him in about an hour." "Thank you," Mum whispered. After the doctor left, Mum turned to me. "I don't understand. Why help us after what we put you through?" "Because Jake was right. I had to decide what kind of person I wanted to be." "And?" "I want to be better than you were to me." We sat with Dad while he recovered, taking turns by his bedside. On the 3rd day, when he was finally alert enough to talk, he grabbed my hand. "Zoe?" "I'm here, Dad." "I'm sorry for all of it. I was so worried about what people would think, I forgot what actually mattered." "I know. Jake's a good man, better than me." "I know that too." He squeezed my hand weakly. "What happens now?" "Now you get better, and then we figure out what comes next." 2 weeks after Dad came home from the hospital, I called a family meeting at the lake house. They were living there still, in limbo, waiting for me to decide their fate. I brought Elena and Jake with me for support. We sat in the living room where I'd spent countless childhood hours, where I'd been told I was no longer welcome. "I've made a decision about the house," I said. They all tensed. "I'm keeping it, but I'm not selling it to Dominic." "What are you going to do with it?" Kimberly asked. "Turn it into what I originally planned, a retreat centre, but not for luxury guests." "Then for who?" "For women who've been cut off from their families, women who need a place to rebuild their lives, women like I was 10 years ago." Mum's eyes filled with tears. "That's beautiful. You can stay and help run it, if you want. There's a caretaker cottage on the property. It's small, but it's yours if you want it." "What would we do?" Dad asked. "Whatever needs doing. Maintenance, cooking, administration. It's honest work." "We'd be employees." "You'd be family. Finally." Mum started crying again, but this time they looked like tears of relief. "There's one condition," I said. They waited. "Kimberly tells you the truth about the start-up, all of it. No more secrets, no more lies." Kimberly went pale. "Zoe, it's time. They deserve to know." It took 2 hours for Kimberly to tell the whole story. Mum and Dad listened in silence as she explained the lies, the cover-ups, the decision to let them invest in something she knew would fail. When she finished, Dad was quiet for a long time. "I'm disappointed," he said finally, "but I understand why you did it." "You do. You were trying to be what we wanted you to be, perfect, successful, just like we tried to make Zoe into something she wasn't." He looked at me. "We failed both our daughters in different ways." "But we can do better now," Mum said, "if you'll let us." I looked around the room, at my parents, broken but trying, at Kimberly, finally honest, at Jake and Elena, who'd stood by me through everything. "We can try," I said. "We can all try." The retreat centre opened 6 months later. We called it Second Chances, and it filled up within weeks. Women came from all over the state, some escaping controlling families, others rebuilding after divorce or abuse, all of them needing a place to start over. Mum runs the kitchen now. Dad maintains the grounds. Kimberly handles the administrative work, and she's good at it, better than she ever was at running a startup. And me? I still run my auto shops, but I spend my weekends at the lake house watching women find their strength the way I found mine. Sometimes karma doesn't come running. Sometimes you have to build it yourself, wrench by wrench, tear by tear, and invite it in for tea. But the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's becoming so successful that helping them doesn't even hurt your bottom line.